My name is Riley Hartman. I'm 34, and I've spent most of my life believing that if I worked hard enough, my parents would eventually see me. Last month, during our family's annual Thanksgiving dinner in Boulder, that illusion finally shattered. I had just come off a 72-hour work week in Denver, 2 renovation proposals due, 1 client meltdown, and our family craft store sinking faster each month. I walked into the dining room, still wearing my work badge. Dad didn't even look up when I sat down. "You forgot to file the resin shipment report," he said. Across from him, Autumn, my 7-year-old younger sister, sat glowing from a $3,200 Aspen spa weekend, a gift from Mom and Dad so she could relax. Mom was already holding Autumn's hand when Dad asked her warmly, "How was the massage, sweetheart?" Meanwhile, I hadn't slept since Wednesday. Something inside me cracked. "Oh, so I work while she enjoys? That's the deal now?" I asked. Dad finally met my eyes. "No," he said. "That's always been the deal. You work while your sister enjoys life, simple as that." He took a slow sip of wine. "And if you don't like it, Riley, there's the door." So I pushed back my chair. "Fine," I said. "Then I'll go, and you can start paying your own bills." The room froze. Forks hovered. Autumn blinked like she was watching a stranger. But the truth? This moment wasn't born at that dinner table. It had been building for decades. Growing up in the foothills of Boulder, favoritism was the wallpaper of our home. When I was 12, I competed in the Colorado Junior Architecture Expo, designing a sustainable community center. My model won district honors and was displayed downtown for the entire summer. I ran home with my certificate. Dad skimmed it and set it beside the sink. "Good," he said. "Now go restock the new resin brushes." 3 months later, 9-year-old Autumn finger-painted a crooked sunrise at school. Mom framed it, printed copies, and hung them in both store locations like it was a gallery piece. Customers bought laminated versions for $4.99 each, praising her raw talent. Autumn got an iPad loaded with drawing apps. I got extra closing duties. By 13, I was unpacking canvas shipments before school, scraping dried resin off tables after dinner, repainting shelves, hauling trash twice my size. Always because Autumn needs time to focus on her art. Her doodles sold. My blueprints gathered dust. And now, 20 years later, they still expected me to bend, break, and carry the weight of a family that never once carried me. So yes, when Dad said, "If you don't like it, there's the door," I stood up. I walked through that door. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The house I grew up in sat just behind our family's craft store in Boulder, a squat, weather-worn structure with creaky pine floors and walls that soaked up every argument, every silence. When Autumn and I finally outgrew sharing a room, Dad converted the old delivery shed into my space. He made it sound like a gift. It wasn't. The shed had bare bulbs, cracked concrete, and warped shelves stacked with forgotten foam boards and dented boxes of sketch pads. Autumn, meanwhile, claimed the upstairs corner bedroom, with the wide window overlooking the cottonwoods, sunlight pouring in like it was designed just for her. Mom renovated that room like it was a magazine spread, added a drafting table, mounted track lighting, even installed a lock so no one disturbed her process. I got a futon and a milk crate nightstand. Weekends meant more hours at the register. By 14, I was running the entire Saturday cashier shift alone, counting change, wrapping fragile brushes in tissue, explaining the eternal oil versus watercolor debate to tourists drifting in from Pearl Street. Every tip went into a jar I labeled college, tucked carefully under my bed. Dad praised my reliability whenever customers were around. 5 minutes later, he'd slip Autumn a $100 bill for new markers to support her creativity. She bought glitter pens that dried out by Wednesday. The pattern set like hardened acrylic. I organized the annual sidewalk sale, designed window displays that doubled foot traffic, learned inventory software on a refurbished laptop missing half its keys. Autumn floated through the store like a visiting celebrity, occasionally rearranging a shelf for inspiration, then disappearing to sketch at the Creek or the Pearl Street Plaza. Relatives noticed the imbalance. Aunt Valerie once muttered, "That girl's got 2 left feet and a silver spoon," nodding toward Autumn. Mom shushed her instantly. By high school, the store's cramped back room had become my unofficial office. I redesigned the layout to fit more easels, negotiated bulk discounts, and launched a loyalty program that boosted repeat business by nearly 30%. Dad called it good practice. Tu has a closer. Autumn's report cards came home with C's in math, but her charcoal portraits won a few ribbons at the county fair. Each ribbon meant a celebration: burgers, bowling, movie nights, whatever she wanted. It didn't take long to decode the message. My worth was tied to what I produced. Autumn's worth was tied to who she was. The jar under my bed grew heavier, but so did the weight on my spine. High school widened the gap until there was no pretending anymore. I juggled 2 part-time jobs, working full days at school, then rushing to cater private events in the foothills, balancing trays of hors d'oeuvres while reviewing interior design floor plans on my phone during breaks. Evenings meant delivery runs for the store, weaving through Boulder's narrow streets with boxes of gesso and stretched canvas shifting in the trunk. Every dollar earned went toward application fees, portfolio prints, and the stack of SCAD acceptance materials I prayed would be my new beginning. Autumn, meanwhile, drifted through classes untouched by pressure. Her junior year, Mom and Dad unveiled the family's biggest surprise: a full year of painting classes in Florence, Italy. All expenses paid, plus a brand new scooter for getting around the cobblestone streets. They called it essential for her artistic growth. And Carrie, I learned, in that moment, that some daughters are chosen, and some daughters are used. I did the math the second my parents announced Autumn's year in Florence: tuition, housing, flights, scooter insurance, and I could feel the totals burning behind my eyes. My own SCAD deposit already meant another summer of double shifts, but theirs? They were spending more on her growth in one semester than they had invested in my entire future. Then came the pop-up gallery idea. Autumn returned from Italy buzzing with inspiration. She wanted a temporary exhibition space on Canyon Boulevard, something airy and modern, something that would put Boulder's art scene on the map. Dad saw potential. I saw a financial cliff. Within 2 weeks, they had remortgaged the house to secure a 6-month lease on a prime downtown spot. Track lighting imported from France, custom maple display cases, new signage, branded merch, everything top shelf, everything expensive. Opening night was packed. People floated through the room sipping wine, murmuring praise for Autumn's abstract oils. For a moment, even I hoped maybe this time she'd make it work. Sales trickled in, then slowed, then stopped. Suppliers began calling about unpaid invoices for frames, stretchers, shipping. Dad talked about momentum curves, but the reality was clear. After 6 months, they shut the gallery down with $20,000 in losses. Dad shrugged. A learning experience, he said. I found the remortgage paperwork while sorting receipts for tax season. The new monthly payment had jumped by $800. Mom told me gently that they needed the equity to give Autumn a real shot. Meanwhile, my student loans were sitting at $30,000, gathering interest like mold in a damp basement. Still, I started wiring home $1,800 every month from my freelance design gigs, covering the increased mortgage while chipping away at my own debt. College acceptances rolled in during my senior year. SCAD offered me a partial scholarship, but the remaining gap still felt like an avalanche inching toward me. So I worked graduation weekend, serving cake at a classmate's party, instead of attending my own ceremony. Dad texted, "Proud of you for being responsible." Autumn posted photos from a post-graduation getaway in Taos, finding my colors again. At SCAD, I lived in a cramped dorm that smelled like glue sticks and burnt ramen. I sketched until sunrise and interned at local design firms for credit. Autumn enrolled in community college back home, dropped most classes by the first withdrawal deadline. Mom called it exploring her options. Meanwhile, the store's profits slipped as online competitors undercut prices. Dad kept funneling what little we had left into Autumn's next bright idea: hand-painted scarves. They never made it past prototypes. My senior thesis, a sustainable gallery redesign using reclaimed materials from abandoned adobe buildings, earned top honors. Professors connected me with firms in Atlanta and Denver. I graduated with honors, $45,000 in debt, and a job offer starting at $52,000 a year. Autumn celebrated my achievement by announcing her engagement to a photographer she'd met at a workshop. Mom immediately offered the store as a venue. The ceremony cost $15,000, charged to the business account, the same account I helped balance. The monthly transfers home continued. I kept telling myself it was family stability, but every year, my savings stayed flat. Every year, Dad's emails grew shorter. Every year, the updates were all about Autumn. By the time last Thanksgiving arrived, the resentment wasn't resentment anymore. It was sediment, hard, unmoving, fossilized inside me. The night before the dinner, I had pulled an all-nighter redesigning the store's main showroom. Modular displays for the premium oils, new LED highlights for the limited edition pastels, a traffic flow plan to handle Black Friday crowds without bottlenecking the register. I showed up exhausted. But I showed up. I didn't know that was the night everything would finally break. If you've ever carried a family on your back, hit subscribe, because the next part of this story is where everything Riley held inside finally erupts. On top of the showroom overhaul, I had just finished 3 hotel lobby renderings for a client in Albuquerque Concepts, blending southwestern textile palettes with clean-lined minimalism. Each revision hit their inbox around 2:30 a.m., long after the rest of the city had gone quiet. By the time I showered, packed the green bean casserole, and made the 45-minute drive to my parents' house in Boulder, exhaustion sat behind my eyes like grit. But the smell of roasting turkey almost convinced me the day might stay peaceful. Dad opened the door carrying a platter of deviled eggs. "You're late," he said. "No, hello. No, you look tired. Just the script. The new acrylic shipment came yesterday. Still no inventory update. It's come stonus." There it was, the edge in his voice that always cut the same way. The store first, me second. Everything else irrelevant. I swallowed a retort and stepped inside. Mom was in the dining room, arranging cranberry sauce into crystal bowls like it was an art installation. She smiled without really seeing me. Then Autumn arrived fashionably late, as always sweeping through the kitchen in a camel-colored coat that definitely didn't come from a clearance rack. She set down a glossy shopping bag and pulled out a Hermes Kelly bag, pristine white leather catching the light like a spotlight. "Look what Mom and Dad surprised me with after my Sedona spa weekend," she announced, hoisting it like a trophy. The spa weekend, $3,200 massages, facials, yoga, overlooking red rocks, all charged to the family credit card as an early birthday treat. Mom beamed like she had won something too. "Your sister needed a proper reward after closing that influencer deal," Mom said. Autumn's big deal was a sponsored post for a boutique crystal shop. It barely covered her gas for the week. I set the casserole down. My pulse thudded in my temples. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice steady despite everything boiling underneath. I redesigned the entire showroom, managed supplier delays, closed 6-figure hotel contracts, and Autumn gets a luxury bag and a spa retreat for posting pictures? Dad set his fork down deliberately, heavily. "Your job," he said, "is to work while your sister enjoys life. Simple as that." He leaned back. "And if you don't like it, there's the door." The air thinned. Mom froze, hand hovering over the gravy boat. Autumn sipped her wine, smirking behind the rim. Something inside me, years of strain, sacrifices, midnight renderings, student loans, wire transfers, home snapped clean. "The door's that way?" I asked. Dad nodded, unblinking. "Good," I said. "I'm taking it." My chair scraped loudly against the old pine floors. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the fridge, the same hook where one of Autumn's childhood doodles still hung, laminated like sacred art. "Riley, honey, sit down, we're grateful, really." Mom's voice cracked, but the tears felt rehearsed, the same ones she used whenever Autumn missed curfew. Autumn rolled her eyes. "Drama queen," she muttered. Dad started after me. "After everything we've done for you." But his voice faded behind me as I stepped out into the cold November air. Pine needles crunched under my boots. I slid into my car, the engine roaring to life, drowning out Mom's final plea. I drove the 20 minutes to Drake Owen's apartment on the south side, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly the knuckles went white. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running away. I was leaving. Drake, my boyfriend of 2 years, opened the door in sweats, concern softening his whole face. He didn't ask what happened. He just pulled me inside, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, handed me chamomile tea, and let the silence settle until I could breathe again. Somewhere back in Boulder, the turkey on my parents' table was going cold. For the first time in my life, I didn't look back. 2 days later, everything began to unravel. That morning, I woke to an email from the bank's loan servicing department, a formal notice of intent to foreclose. 3 missed mortgage payments, over $5,000 due in 30 days. Dad had never said a word about falling behind. The remortgage they took out for Autumn's failed gallery had pushed their finances past the edge. I forwarded the notice to my private folder, then revoked the store's accounting access from my laptop. I wasn't cleaning their mess anymore. By the end of the week, the store lost its biggest annual contract, the Boulder Unified Arts Program. The district buyer called me because I had always handled invoices and explained they couldn't renew without updated purchase orders and confirmed inventory. The contract was worth $12,000. Just gone. Dad left a voicemail blaming supply chain chaos, but the truth was simple. Unpaid bills were piling up on his desk. Meanwhile, Autumn's influencer jobs dried up instantly. Her sponsored candle post barely reached 500 likes, and the brand canceled their collaboration. With her loft rent due, she packed her designer luggage and moved back home. Mom texted me a photo of Autumn's old room, made up with fresh linens and a heart emoji. I didn't respond. Then, the calls began relentless. 47 in total. Dad's first voicemail hit at 8:30 a.m. "You think walking out fixes anything? Get back here and straighten the books before we lose everything." The crash of the receiver ended the message. Mom followed an hour later, voice trembling in practiced fragility. "My back is acting up again. I can't lift shipment boxes without you. Please call." Autumn waited until evening. "Hey sis, things are tight, but listen, I have a great idea for a pop-up paint and sip night. I just need $10,000 to secure the venue, wire it over, and I'll pay you back with interest once it blows up." I deleted the voice note, then blocked her temporarily. That night, Drake and I cooked pasta in his small Southside kitchen. He watched notifications flood my phone and gently suggested switching to silent. But I didn't. I kept it on vibrate. The soft buzz against my leg felt like a reminder of everything I used to rescue and everything I was trying not to rescue now. Drake touched my arm. "You don't have to save them this time," he said quietly. I wasn't sure whether to cry or believe him. Dad escalated from calls to rapid-fire texts, screenshots of overdue utility bills, a photo of the empty register drawer, even the flickering open sign like its survival depended on me. Mom followed with passive-aggressive links about adult children abandoning their aging parents, each one punctuated with a heart emoji. Autumn shifted tactics by calling Drake's phone, leaving a breezy voicemail. "Riley's overreacting. Tell her we have family investors. She'll understand once she sees the plan." There was never a plan. By week 3, the store's main supplier finally put them on credit hold. No more Golden paints or Frederick's canvases until they paid the $9,000 balance. Dad begged the bank for a short-term loan and got denied. His credit score had tanked after the gallery failure. His next voicemail was unnervingly soft. "The lights stay on because of your spreadsheets. Come fix this." Mom texted next, sending a screenshot of her doctor's appointment. The diagnosis: degenerative disc disease, manageable with physical therapy she claimed she couldn't afford. Autumn posted an Instagram story from the basement, wearing paint-splattered overalls, back to basics. Old classmates replied asking if the store was hiring. I spent evenings at Drake's apartment reviewing my own finances, emergency fund, solid, hotel projects thriving. Every buzz from my phone was another plea, another guilt trip. I let each vibration fade. Silence was my boundary. 1 month into the Cold War, Aunt Valerie showed up at my apartment unannounced. She'd flown in from Tucson on a red-eye, rental car keys still in hand. Without small talk, she placed a thick manila envelope on my kitchen table IRS letterhead. Inside was a notice outlining a $50,000 tax deficiency tied to the gallery venture. Dad had exaggerated deductions, materials, rentals, marketing, claiming expenses that didn't match reported income. The discrepancies triggered penalties and interest. I got a courtesy copy, Valerie said. Your mom listed me as secondary contact years ago. She tapped the last page. They're drowning. The mortgage is swallowing 80% of store income. Without the money you sent, they're 2 payments from default. That afternoon, the store's landline finally called me. Dad's voice cracked. Valerie said she saw you. We're not asking for money. Just come back for 1 month. Fix the books. Get us through tax season. The accountant messed up everything. Mom joined on speaker, her breathing tight. It's temporary, she said. We'll pay you consultant rates once cash flow stabilizes. Their desperation filled the line. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel pulled. I felt clear. Because desperation isn't accountability, and family isn't the same as obligation. Autumn's voice drifted through the speaker, light and oblivious. Riley, you could just work remotely, fix the books a few hours a week, no big deal. Their pleas layered over each other, Dad's anger, Mom's guilt, Autumn's entitlement, like strokes of paint trying to cover a ruined canvas. I listened without interrupting. Then I ended the call with one word. No. Drake stood nearby, arms crossed, silent until the screen went dark. His expression didn't ask for explanations, just offered steadiness. That evening, I opened my laptop and drafted an email from my professional account. Subject: Formal notice of financial separation. I kept it direct. I was terminating all monetary support, revoking access to shared accounts, and requesting no further contact regarding business matters. I attached the foreclosure notice as reference and hit send to each of them. Autumn tried calling Drake's number next, pitching a collab opportunity for an online watercolor course and asking for funding. Drake played the voicemail while we ate takeout, then deleted it. Aunt Valerie stayed for dinner that night, telling old stories about my mom's failed craft fair projects in the 80 seconds, patterns I recognized too well. Before leaving for her hotel, she hugged me tightly and said, "You're not their ATM. They'll figure it out, or they won't." The next morning, I changed my number, forwarding only work contacts. Dad's last text arrived before the switch. A picture of the empty invoice drawer with the caption, "This is on you." I blocked the thread and powered off the old SIM. Peace arrived slowly. First in the quiet, no calls, no crisis messages. Then, in clarity, room in my mind, to focus on deadlines and design work instead of financial triage. 6 months passed in steady waves of progress. I closed on a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Denver, exposed brick, high ceilings, a corner fireplace, a balcony overlooking the city lights. The $425,000 price fit comfortably within my budget after the Taos resort contract. My firm secured the full redesign for El Monte Sagrado, 40 guest suites requiring handcrafted Zapotec rugs, reclaimed pinion beams, and turquoise inlaid vanities. The project bumped my salary from $92,000 to $129,000, with bonuses tied to lead milestones. Drake helped carry the last moving box into the condo. Then he knelt on the newly polished floor and opened a ring box. A white gold band he'd designed himself, set with a single turquoise stone. I said yes. Meanwhile, my parents' world kept shrinking. After months of losses, they sold the art supply store to a regional franchise out of Albuquerque. Inventory went at 60 cents on the dollar, barely enough to clear the IRS lien. When the dust settled, they walked away with just $4,300. They relocated to a cramped 1-bedroom near the rail yard, thin walls, old carpet, rent capped at $1,050 a month. Autumn stayed with them. Her influencer career evaporated. Her basement studio, now a symbol of what their choices had cost all of us. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't responsible for saving anyone. I was simply living my own life finally, fully, and without apology. Dad, 62, and newly jobless, took the first steady work he could find, the night shift at FedEx Ground, scanning and loading packages from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. at $21.50 an hour. Health insurance would kick in after 90 days, coverage the old store never offered him, even after decades there. Mom picked up a weekend permit on Pearl Street, setting up a folding easel against the brick walkway. She painted small watercolors of adobe doorways, foothill trails, and red Chile ristras. Good tourist weekends brought in $60 to $120, just enough for groceries and the occasional prescription copay. She texted me a photo of her first $50 sale, a sunset she was proud of, but the message bounced back undeliverable. Autumn found a job at Hobby Lobby on 28th Street, starting as a cashier at $13.25 an hour. After 2 months of showing up on time, something she'd never mastered before, she was promoted to custom framing, measuring mats, cutting glass, assembling shadow boxes. Her employee discount gave her cheap access to acrylic sheets and pre-cut mats, letting her experiment with small personal projects after closing. For the first time in her life, she was building something instead of being handed everything. She even enrolled in one evening class at Front Range Community College, paying tuition from her own paycheck. Her Instagram evolved into behind-the-scenes clips mixing pigments, fixing crooked frames, narrating mistakes. The authenticity drew people in. Her follower count passed 3,000, more earned than curated. Meanwhile, I severed every remaining tie. I deleted the family Dropbox, removed myself from the vendor portal, updated my mailing address. Then I sent one final certified letter return receipt requested. On my firm's letterhead, I wrote, "Love isn't one-way labor. I wish you growth, but from a distance. This is permanent." 3 days later, the green card came back, signed by Mom. I filed it away and moved on. Life finally felt like mine. Drake and I hosted a housewarming on our Denver balcony, string lights glowing, green chile stew simmering, colleagues from the Taos Resort raising glasses of local sparkling wine. My portfolio now included hotel lobbies in Albuquerque and a boutique renovation downtown. Travel plans replaced emergency transfers. Santa Barbara, in spring. Portugal in winter. The mental space once consumed by unpaid invoices now fueled design boards and project proposals. I didn't abandon them. I simply stopped paying for their mistakes. Dad learned punctuality under warehouse fluorescents. Mom discovered people would buy her art on its own merit. Autumn built competence, one careful cut at a time. Consequences taught them what indulgence never did. Thank you for staying with me through this. If this story hit home, drop your thoughts below. What would you have done at that Thanksgiving table?